Welcome to my channel, Outside the Levees. I'm Jared Serenay, and today I'm going on a commercial catfishing trip with my buddy Jimmy Hickman and his son Cole. We'll be checking Jimmy's line of hoop nets and loading up catfish to send to the market. Let's get it started. Alright, it's back to work commercial fishing this morning. I'm heading out with my buddy Jimmy Hickman and we're going to check hoop nets for catfish. Now Jimmy's been doing this for a while and he follows the catfish in the different areas through different seasons. Today we happen to be in Carnarvon, which is close to my house, which is pretty nice. Saved me a long drive this morning. We did this a few years ago on what he swears was a bad day, which was about 300 or so pounds of catfish. So today he's looking to really show what he can do. Alright, let's get on the boat and go see. Jimmy's got his deckhand here, Mr. Cole. Cole's gonna launch the boat. Welcome to Louisiana, y'all, where 8-year-olds launch 30-foot boats with thousands of pounds of ice in them. All right, we're at our first net. A little bit like Christmas morning right now. He's been promising a good catch, but I've been the black cloud with this camera, so we'll see. The alligators are here, that's for sure. They like it. What's the size of the nets we're checking today?
So the nets that we're going to check here today are 48-inch diameter. They have either 5 or 6 rings on them. These are built to hang in the water column, so we don't need them to be as long because you would have to have a lot of water. Louisiana in general doesn't have any. You don't want to have to find 25 or so feet of water in order to hang your nets.
So what are you doing here?
So right now we have the rope in this block right here, and we're going to use that block in our engine to actually get our weights up. If not, I would have to do it by hand, which I did for a number of years. Block.
How many do I believe?
How many do you believe are in there?
He's asking me how many catfish I believe are in the net. I'm gonna just play it conservative and say 25.
25.
25.
I'm gonna do it accurately and say 900 pounds.
Okay. So you go on pounds. I did like number of fish. So that's a hoop net. I can hear something. Is that fish? Oh, that's definitely fish. All right, remember earlier when I said there'd be probably about 25 fish in this net? Yeah, I was wrong.
Well, so now, generally emptying hoop nets means you roll them into the boat and either roll them into a box or, you know, whatever you have in the boat to hold the catfish. I built this boat with a little bit taller sides on it, so I personally am not able to get these nets in a boat alone. If they don't have as much in them, a lot of times we can roll them in, but I really don't know how to get this net in the boat without, you know, doing some kind of damage either to the webbing or the hoops. If I damage it, I have to work on it. If I have to work on it, everything takes time. So the easiest way that I have to get them out is to take this little net right here and scoop them out. So we can scoop out about 1,000 pounds in 9 minutes. So, and I don't have to work on the net the next day. So that works pretty good for me, and it's not easy, but that's the way we do it. So
now, was this an opening? Did you untie this? I didn't see.
Yes. I
okay.
untied that.
All right. So you have an opening in there.
Yep.
You have an opening here.
Lace it up. That way the catfish can't
laced
get
up
out.
with this, right?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, so
how many pounds do we think are in here? Just
if I had to guesstimate, somewhere between 450 and 500 in this one. Hopefully, it's our worst net today. So we'll see.
You know, in a moment like this, I kind of think like, what would Bobby Boucher react to this? Like, remember when he seen the dirty water in the movie and his reaction was like, he couldn't believe it? Bobby and his mama would be all over this. Whew, that's a lot of catfish.
So I fish mainly blue cat, or I try to fish mainly blue cat. And blue cat, the best bait to catch them is these oily, smelly little fish here. The technical term is a menhaden. The local term is a pogie. Up north they call them a bunker. They're actually worth more than the catfish, so that's interesting. In order to run all of our nets this week, which we have about 29 to run, we have a little bit over $900 in bait invested in running those. So the first 1,800 pounds of catfish are free. So the anatomy of this net. You have a guide throat. That's this big square one right here. They're normally made like that. Then the one behind it, you'll notice, is made differently. We call that a catch throat.
So fish goes in, like any other trap net, goes in.
They get through this, and you know, they end up in the back of the net. So generally, they can't get out. Now, after they run out of bait, all that catfish is interested in doing is finding a way out of that net. So after the net runs out of bait, you want to be back on it and running it. I usually give them a day or two after I think the net runs out of bait, because these blue cat eat all the bait and then they regurgitate the bait. When they regurgitate, it makes an oily, nasty mess in the water and draws way more catfish than the actual bait did. So the blue cat will actually help you catch them. You know, they go in, they eat the bait, and they spit it up. That creates, you know, fish attracting sense about the net, and even more of them will go in. These nets are usually out of bait here in about 2 or 3 days with the water temps as they are now. So, you know, these nets aren't tremendously expensive. Depends on who you buy them from and how they're built, but they're definitely more expensive than I want to buy every day. So we need the weight on the bottom. The rope runs up to the top. Those two crab balls kind of hold the net up a little bit, and whenever we get it about where we want it based upon the water depth, take it out of there.
So that's the top. This part
Yes,
will be up
this
or
part
down?
would be, so this part now is on top, but it will be hanging down on the bottom after.
So they come in from the bottom.
They do. They come in from the bottom.
Interesting.
So on to the next one.
450 or so pounds of catfish. That's a good start to me.
All right, so what's our guess on this net?
A little bit more than the last one. I guess 900 on the last one. I was wrong. It had a little bit over half of that.
Pounds wise, I'm gonna say 650.
All right, you want 400?
Gotta remember to get out the way this time. We got soaked on the last one. So I'm gonna get up here so I can capture this without getting everything soaked. Okay.
All big blues.
Well, that's what it was last week.
Now that's funny. These nets were what? Maybe 100 yards apart. And the first net had mostly smaller channel cats. This one's got mostly big blues.
Well, we got a mixture of blue cat and channel cat in this one. I guess we caught whatever swam by. Got a little more in this one. This one probably has closer to, probably what you guessed, probably about 650. Oh. Many men have tried to use this dip net all day, and not too many of them have made it to the end of the day with it. It is definitely a workout.
How many pounds do you feel like you're filling in that?
Probably 20, 25 per scoop. We used to have a net that was a little bigger, but you know, about 25 pounds of scoop's really all that I want to get out of it.
Yeah.
You know, you have an issue getting them out of the net. Sometimes they get caught. If you're going to get a hole in your net, it's going to be in this area right here because of the fish coming out of it, so you have to watch that whenever you drop it back down. Whatever else you get out of that, make it where they didn't make any money.
So there's a flounder in this net. And you have to realize this is pretty much 100% freshwater. So he came all the way up in here, got in that net. Cole said, is it a halibut? Technically, he's not wrong. When he pulled this one up, he realized someone's trot line had gotten tangled up with the net, and clearly it messed up the catch based off of, you know, obviously the last two nets that we pulled up had a lot more fish than this. And that's one of those things you run into just by having equipment out on the water overnight, a couple days at a time, is things happen to that equipment while it sits out there. Do not throw that flounder away. So it's kind of a bummer. Not a great catch on this one. Just hope we make up for it on the next few.
Look at that one. Gee whiz. Look at the size of that guy.
How big a fish do you think that is?
Probably 20, 22 pounds or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I say, last week they were all that big here. Every single fish.
Wow.
In fact, they may have all been bigger than that. He came out, thankfully. You know what? He whipped me that bad. I'm gonna let him go. Right in the top of the foot.
I saw that.
I mean, halfway through to the bottom of my soul.
It looks like a bone of a catfish.
Is that what your dad just got stabbed with?
Yeah, thankfully not quite that long. This isn't the easiest job in the world. We do enjoy it, so that makes it easier. A lot of wear and tear on your body, a lot of wear and tear on everything else.
So how many pounds do you have to catch to break even on a day?
Well, it depends on how much bait we use and how much ice, you know, the expense of driving down here and stuff like that. Our average trip overall throughout the course of the year is probably about $500 per trip. So we have to catch double that catfish. Catfish are about $50 a pound. So basically 1,000 pounds of fish is our break-even point. So anytime that we don't catch them, or we miss them, or we don't catch very much more than that, it's almost like you're better off going to work that day. Put that in there. We'll use our motor to raise our weight. Of course, you got to watch you don't bring the engine up above the net as the net's coming to the top. So you get it out there and start to turn it. The current ought to bring the net out away from the boat. And we shouldn't have any issues. We do catch the rope and a prop about once a day, just based upon the wind and every other issue you could have. Wind going opposite of the current. Everything you can possibly imagine that can go wrong. We'll try to. Ain't got no fish. All the bait's gone. So the mesh around this area of the net gets weak based upon the catfish eating on it from the outside, or a little alligator or something might have grabbed it, a snapping turtle, or a big catfish grabbed it and broke through it. So probably anything less than 3 or 4 pounds can get out of that hole. We still probably got 200 or 300 in the net that couldn't get out, all big fish. At least we got that. The net either broke even or made a little bit of money. While I'm not happy about it, it's all part of running nets. That's why you normally have out a couple more than what you really need, just to compensate for any issue that you might have.
So on this one, there was a hole in the net. And what he's saying is, normally he'll put out a few extra, anticipating that little hiccups like that are gonna happen. So this net wasn't a total wash. The bigger fish weren't able to get out. They weigh more, so you get a good price per fish on those anyway. But it would have been nice to have the small ones too to help make up for it.
Hopefully, with no holes in the net next week, we'll get them back. I didn't know how to build nets for a long time. I went and stayed with a guy for a couple days, and he kind of learned me how to do it. So what you have here, this is actually an alligator that bit the net, and I'll explain to you how we know. So you see right here, that mesh looks unusual, like it's drawn down. So the knot has moved. So a catfish is not strong enough to move the knot in this mesh. So an alligator came by it, like, I mean, you know, either an alligator or a little turtle or whatever, and he grabbed it. So whenever you're working on a hole in the net, try and square it off. You don't leave any ends on it or anything. So on this one, we're gonna start right here, and if I had a needle, which I gave my needle to my buddy the other day who needed it. What you definitely do not want to do is patch a hole with a different color string. I don't know why, but they will find that hole and they will bust it in the same place every single time.
So to me, I see the hole and I'm like, well, how they all, like they literally all got out. Anything that was sized right to get out of that hole got out. He said they'll find it within 1 minute of being in there. That's how bad they want to survive. Holy cow. Son. Woo!
Everything, you know, 8 to 25 or so pounds. That's what we had in them last week.
All big ones. Like he said, they're about anywhere from 8 to 20, 25 pounds. Most of them look like they're on that 20, 25 pound sliding scale. You know, I feel like hoop netting is kind of a dying art. There's not a lot of people doing it these days. It's a good way to commercial fish, just not something a lot of people do. And I think there's a lot of a learning curve on this as well, from what I can tell. I hope you got to see a little bit about where you catfish sometimes come from. These are wild caught, not the farm raised that sometimes you'll serve in restaurants. If you do get the hunch and you want to try this, there's plenty of places to go get hoop nets, but I can promise you it's gonna be a while before you figure it out.
I ran nets for about 11 years before I really understood a lot about fish. So we spent the last 9 years, every day that I'm off, I'm running nets. It's a wonderful way to spend the day. A little more work than most want to do. We like it. So this one is our last catfish, come out of the last net of the day. So normally I give one back to the catfish gods. That one catfish is not gonna make the world of difference in the amount of money that we make today. And we're gonna let him go. He swam away nice. We've been doing that for a while. I used to let him go out of every net, the last fish out of every net. That got kind of expensive.
Taking what nature has to offer, getting it out there for the people to enjoy. So please keep following along. We're gonna do a few more of these commercial fishing videos. Go ahead and subscribe right now before you forget, subscribe, because they're gonna be coming out and I don't want y'all to miss them. Click the notifications bell down below. That puts out a little ping to you every time we put out a new video, and we'll see y'all soon.